Okay. Hi, we will go ahead and get started. My name's Lisa Hanselman. I'm the director of the Mountaineer Parents Club here at West Virginia University. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. Our webinar about housing at WVU will be able to give you a lot of information and answer some questions before that housing portal opens next week. So for our agenda tonight, we'll just make sure that you meet our staff here tonight. We'll talk a lot more about housing, the application and how that works. And then after we have completed the presentation, we will be starting a Q&A session. So please just hold your questions until the end. We might just answer them in the presentation. And when we do start the Q&A, we will be taking those questions in the chat. So just a little bit about the Mountaineer Parents Club, who's bringing you this information tonight. If you need us beyond this, please reach out to us. You can visit our website. And this presentation is being recorded. We will have it up on our website probably by the end of next week. You can email the Mountaineer Parents Club at any point, and we'll be happy to answer your questions for you. And join us on Facebook. We do have that official family of the WVU class of 2029. And we would love for all of you to join that page. We'll be answering the questions of our incoming freshman families directly and make sure that you get those answers. If you need anything beyond, we do have a helpline, an 800 number that you can call. It's answered by our colleague Katie, which will be happy to help you in any way. As we go through tonight, just always remember that the Mountaineer Parents Club is available to you to answer any questions that you have, or at least get you to the right office. Okay, now it's time to get started. You've met me. We'll introduce you to our Associate Director of Housing and begin the presentation.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well. I'm happy to be here. Once again, my name is Eric O'Hara. So I work in the housing office. I'm going to talk a little bit about housing and then give you plenty of time to ask all those nitty-gritty questions. So applying for housing. Go ahead and advance the slide for me. There are all kinds of different housing options available. And I know sometimes you can get lost when you're trying to explore those various options and determine, what's best for me? And I get that question a lot. What's the best place to live? And I can honestly and sincerely say all of them, because they all offer certain advantages or certain options. And ultimately, you're probably going to use resources in all of our different neighborhoods. And we do have three kind of distinct neighborhoods when it comes to the residence halls. The one shown in the slide is Evansdale. So this is Towers. I'm actually in Towers right now, the one to your left. It's kind of like a mini city. And just behind Towers, you have Oakland Hall. And just to the left of this picture, you can kind of see it in the bubble there, is Lincoln Hall. So, and they all offer different amenities. Let me go through some of those other neighborhoods first, though. So you also have our downtown neighborhood. So that is next to the mountain layer, the Student Union, closest to High Street, where the city of Morgantown, kind of that main artery, is located. And then you also have what's called the Sunnyside neighborhood, which is, if you're looking at my picture, kind of behind the building on the other side of the downtown campus. So if you want to kind of know where everything's at, downtown is Borman and Dadisman and Stoniker. Sunnyside is Seneca, Summit, and Honors Hall. And then Evansdale, like I mentioned, you've got the Towers, you've got Oakland Hall, and you've got Lincoln Hall. Now, amenities. What types of amenities do we have? A lot of people are thinking bathrooms. So what types of bathrooms do you have? So in Towers, it's a community-style bathroom. In Borman, it's a community-style restroom. So those are cleaned every day. They have certain advantages. So most people might be looking for, not all people, but might want that ensuite restroom. But think about it. If you have 4 people sharing one restroom with a similar class schedule, there's certain advantages to having a community-style restroom that's cleaned every day, as opposed to the suite-style restrooms that they go through and do a house cleaning about every 3 weeks. So suite-style, I just mentioned that. It's kind of like a Jack and Jill bathroom. It's an ensuite bathroom, typically shared by 3 other people. Most are 2 rooms connected by a bathroom. And then we've got something that's unique. It's called a pod style, and that's in Oakland Hall. So that's not ensuite, not directly connected to the room, but there are a pod of private bathrooms on the floor that you can access with a lock that will lock the areas where the toilet and showers are located. Also, certain amenities are important to different people. For example, air conditioning. We do have a few halls on the downtown campus that are not air conditioned. So those are Borman and Dadisman. But keep in mind, you get here in August when it is warm. It cools down in September, and then you move out in May. So students use air conditioning for a very short amount of time in most cases. But for some people, we certainly understand and recognize that those are very important amenities. So some students want to have those. Also, there may be amenities such as the apartment or kitchen style. So that's in Seneca Hall. So we have studio apartments located in Seneca in our Sunnyside neighborhood. And I can go on and on about the different amenities across campus. And that's why we want you to check our website. We don't want you to get lost. There's a lot of great information out there. So if you're having problems finding anything, go to our website, look at all the different halls, take a tour online, look at the pictures, look at the layouts, and look at everything that's associated with that particular residence hall. When you're on our website, we also want you to go to our living learning communities. So take a look at those. Some of those are major based, like engineering. Others may be thematic, like adventure, or some of you may be getting ready to join ROTC. So there's an Air Force and Army ROTC living learning community. All that information is on our website. And then there's more information when you're actually applying for housing. You can click through some of those and take a look and get redirected to those pages to learn more about those. Transportation. So I talked about different locations across campus. Ultimately, you have the personal rapid transit system, the PRT. So that gets you around campus. Everybody knows the little tram system or the PRT, but you also have the bus that goes across campus, which is free to students. So no matter where you live, you have access to all the different amenities across campus. Ultimately, you're probably going to be in all these neighborhoods, so don't let that stress you out. I mentioned do your research. So go to our website at housing.wvu.edu. I always cheat. There is so much information out there. I simply go to the top right-hand corner in the toolbar, and if I'm looking for rates, I type in rates. If I'm looking for a specific residence hall, I type that in. When we're getting closer to move-in, I might type in things to bring. Ultimately, everything is there. And if you do get lost in a loop and you can't find that answer to your question, never hesitate to reach out to us, and we'll provide that information later in the presentation. So the timeline. This is very timely in that we open a week from Wednesday on December 4th. It won't open at midnight. It's going to open at 9 a.m. in the morning. So students will be able to, if they've paid the academic deposit, been admitted first, of course, and paid the academic deposit on December 4th at 9 a.m., they will be able to log into the portal, which is myhousing.wvu.edu, and start the application. It's all one seamless process. You log in, enter personal information, enter preferences, sign the contract, pay the housing deposit, and go right into self-selection. And self-selection typically ends at the end of February. That's when it's scheduled to end again this year, so February 28th. So there's still plenty of time to look for available spaces, change spaces if you want, look at roommate profiles, which I'll talk about here in a little bit, and kind of explore what's available. Dining plans will be right around the corner in spring. They always keep their website up to date, and we'll provide more information later about all the exciting dining plans and options for students. I always say with dining, once you get here, and we'll talk about this at New Student Orientation, use all the options that are available to you. So you'll have all those neighborhoods I referenced have their own dining hall, and there are other options across campus. Make sure you're utilizing all of them. Then after self-selection, we'll have students that will apply after February 28th, and we'll work on the manual assignments process. We'll also start managing our wait list at that time. So we always do our best to get everybody into the spot that they want to be in. We try to honor requests as long as it doesn't come at the expense of someone else. But no matter when you apply, we're going to ask for your preferences, even if you're going on to self-selection, just to make sure that we can get you to the right place if for some reason you don't choose a spot or something changes along your way. So changing room assignments during self-selection, you do it during self-selection. You hit the big blue button that says change rooms and you look for other available options. So if you do get on a wait list before February 28th, we're not going to process those until we get to the end of self-selection, because you can see what's out there in real time. And you can read those roommate profiles and see if there's another fit out there for you, and even communicate with potential roommates. I already mentioned after self-selection, we'll start doing our manual assignments process, and we'll also start working from our wait list, which we'll manage all the way through the end of June. So navigating the portal, I keep referencing profiles. One of the first steps in the process is for you to answer a series of questions about study habits, how you are you neat, are you not neat? Parents, I just want you to make sure that you have your students fill this out. It's what they're going to do without you being there with them, and how they're going to live in that space. But be honest, in those profiles, you have the ability to write a narrative as well, include social media information, which a lot of students do because that's how they want to communicate with one another. And that helps us, it helps you during the self-selection process, but it also helps us later down the line during the manual assignments process too, because we have some tools available to us to be able to try to find that best fit. Searching for spaces. When you see it, you'll go on and you can search for certain types of rooms. You can search for a particular building. I say don't click too many of those buttons in the left-hand toolbar. Pick what's most important to you. If you want to be in Bennett Tower, click Bennett Tower. That way you can look at all the spaces that are currently available in Bennett Tower. If you see that there's only one space available in the room, you click on Bennett Tower and you'll actually see the other person that's assigned to it, and you can see their profile if they've created it. If it's a suite, say you're in Summit Hall, and 2 people are assigned to the adjoining suite, and there's somebody assigned to the other space, you can see all 3 of those profiles and communicate with those students. If you see something, grab it, because you can change it. So, but if you see something you like, grab it. Student, I know a big question that we're going to get is, can I hold a space? The answer is no. And the reason for that is we've got many students, we've got a lot of people on this call right now that are navigating that portal. We don't want somebody to see a spot, like the spot, grab the spot and say, hey, I'm holding this for somebody else. It's designed to be first come, first served. So if you could always, if there's not another spot there, look for other available spots in the portal. Like I said, the big theme for us is we do our best to accommodate every change as long as it doesn't come at the expense of someone else. And I already talked about searching roommates. Go on, check those different profiles, click on a few rooms, communicate with students via the portal, or look at the social media profiles they may have provided and communicate with them that way. So the wait list. So once again, it's designed, I should take a step back. Say you wanted to be in Bennett Tower and there are no spots in Bennett Tower. You still need to have an assignment. You still need to go and pick another space during the self-selection period. Then you have the ability to get on the wait list to get into Bennett Tower. So we want you to have the assignment first. It's not designed to say that to think that the assignments team is going to assign you before February 28th somewhere else, because you have that ability via the self-selection process. But we realize that some areas, they may be small communities, may fill up quickly. We want you to have the ability to get on that wait list as soon as you have the ability, as soon as you can, especially for those early applicants. So they have the chance to be kind of that first name or first few names on the wait list. Limiting conditions maximizes our ability to honor those requests. So for example, if you're asking for a room on the 4th floor, east facing, that starts or ends with an odd number, with a specific roommate, that's a lot harder to accommodate than a specific building or a specific roommate. So even something as simple as I want to live with Eric O'Hara, but I only want to live with Eric O'Hara in Summit Hall, that's a lot harder to accommodate. So we want you to keep those, focus on what's most important to you. That way we're more likely to be able to honor it. So you will have the ability to list a specific roommate. They have to have, they have to make the request for you as well, and they have to be admitted and have completed the housing application. You can put a specific building, and then, or you can put a specific room type. One thing I should mention, singles are very, very popular. They're also very, very limited. So if that's something important to you, there may be some early on in the process. But in a lot of cases, we hold many of those singles by design because they're held for students that have specific accommodations through the Office of Accessibility Services. So if that's something that you need, or you need an accommodation, we encourage you to register with their office as soon as possible. You'll go through that process, and all they're going to share with us is what accommodation is needed, and we hold spaces to accommodate those various types of needs. Now, I went through a lot of information in a very short amount of time. I also realized that it's tough to kind of take it in until you're seeing it right in front of you. So if you run into any roadblocks along the way, don't hesitate to call us. Don't hesitate to email us. There may be a brief delay in getting back to you, but that's only to get you to the right spot to make sure we get you to the expert to answer that question. So some reminders. So it's right around the corner, December 4th, 9 a.m. Housing portal opens. FAFSA is available now. And then you've got another webinar right around the corner. But I know we have lots of questions, and I have not looked at the chat yet.
Nope, that's my job, Eric. No worries. All right. So folks, here's what we're gonna do. I'm going to read the questions in the chat and Eric will answer them. And that way, for our recording, everyone who watches this later will be able to have the questions as well. So let's start here. All right. Do you have to specify a roommate when you pick your housing option?
You do not. So I hope I didn't cause any confusion with that. During the self-selection period, you're not putting anybody down. You can go out and find them. They could be applying at the same time. You could be on your phone saying, hey, I see 2 spaces available in Summit Hall, and each of you takes a space. Now, if it's after self-selection, so in March and beyond, at that point in time, you can put in a waitlist request where you can specify a roommate, and then that other person needs to specify you as well. They also need to be admitted, as I mentioned, and actually have a housing application for us to be able to move forward with that.
And just to clarify, this is all beginning on December 4th, correct?
It is. December 4th, 9 a.m. is the, if everything goes well, it'll be available.
Okay, Eric, will the LLCs be on the portal as well?
They will. I would take a look at the Living Learning Community page right now. Just go to our website and you'll see it across the top. You can also type in Living Learning Communities, but there will be a Living Learning Community preference page, and it has a link to the different Living Learning Communities. You can put, some are major based. For example, if you're admitted into engineering, you can automatically see those spaces. If you've been admitted to the Honors College, you'll be able to see spaces in Honors Hall and Lincoln Hall. So there are some that have certain conditions. Some are manually assigned, so you have to preference, and we put you in there manually. So some of our thematic communities. So they're all a little bit different, but if you run into any issues with those, or if you have any questions about a specific LLC, don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Okay, so you can pick a room and be on a wait list if you didn't get your first choice?
Yes, but I should probably explain. If you didn't get your first choice and that's not available at all, that's the time to get on the wait list. So you can pick, continue to look to see if it becomes available. If it's not available and you get on that wait list right away, in March, that's when we'll start processing those. And then we would try to, first we'd email the student to say, hey, this is available, do you want it? And we would get you into that space. But what we don't want to do, and I'm not doing a great job of explaining it, is think I just picked a room and now, or I'm not going to pick a room and I'm trying to get on a wait list, because that's not going to help you find that spot. If you're applying in December, you want to keep looking on the portal and see what's available to maximize your options.
Can a student complete the profile prior to December 4th?
No, because it's all part of the portal process. However, you can answer the questions in just a couple minutes and start the narrative and come back to it. You can always update it. So if you're trying to get through it in a hurry, you could even skip it and then come back to it when you're finished with the rest of the application. It is one of those steps you can go back to and provide updates to or complete later. And it's not required. So you don't have to do the profile unless you want to.
And for the question here, it is 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, just to be clear.
That is a very good point.
It absolutely is.
9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
And please don't feel like if you're not on at 9 a.m. that everything will be full by 4 o'clock when your student gets home. It won't be full that same day. No worries.
Part of the advantage too is we want you to be able to make sure that your potential roommate, many of you might already have someone in mind, has applied. Students are getting admitted to the honors college. So we want to make sure that we're actually opening at a time that's going to best meet your individual needs.
And folks, it's a process. So housing isn't going to be gone in the first day or anything like that. So do consider that there is not that rush just on December 4th. Next question, will you be able to see floor plans and not just room numbers?
We do not have floor plans posted. We have different layouts. We have dimensions on our webpage for many of our spaces. So not all. I think Seneca doesn't have specific dimensions, but those have private bedrooms, a full kitchen. So they're a little bit different. They're standard, but the bedrooms may have different layouts, but they're all very similar to one another. But we don't have floor plans, but we have a lot of other specific information, images, pictures, layouts, dimensions, etc.
All right, next question. How much is that housing deposit?
Great question. Should have mentioned that before. It is $225, and it is partially refundable up until May 1st, and 125 of that 225 is refundable, so you get everything but $100 back.
If you are in the honors college, do you have to live in an honors college residence hall?
You don't have to. I would highly recommend it. So for example, if you're eligible to live in honors hall, one, they're popular because of you've got two options, one in Lincoln, one in honors. They're close to different areas that are very important to different people. But at the same time, you have all the support of the honors college in those buildings as well. They're also suite style, which are very popular, and some of our newer residence halls as well. So you do not have to live there, but if you are admitted into the honors college, you will see those spaces and can pick them.
And if your student chooses not to live in the honors hall, they can still participate in honors college activities that would take place in the hall. All right, next, in Stonecker Hall, are the boys and girls mixed, or are the girls on one side and the boys on the other?
They are mixed throughout the hallway, not in suites. So the adjoining bathroom would be gender specific, with the exception of the True Colors community that supports our LGBTQ plus community on the 4th floor. Those are gender inclusive. But the suites, you may have 2 connected rooms that are male, and then next to that, 2 connected rooms that are female. So it's a little bit different, and the configurations change too. So each year a little bit, we're trying to balance those. There's a handful of rooms that are held back for different accommodation needs, as I mentioned. And in some cases, like in towers, we have some floors that we haven't decided how they're going to be set up yet. We call them swing floors so that we can prepare or adapt, I should say, as we continue to receive applications, which we will all the way through August. So those of you that are on here today and are getting ready to apply are very, very early. There'll be a lot that are very early, but we'll still process applications all the way through the first day of school.
So Eric, can you go over one more time how you and your desired roommate can grab the same room during self-selection?
Ideally, you're doing it at the same time, but it's not required. So you're on there, say you're looking in Summit Hall and you see a spot in 101, and you see that there's another spot there. If the other student's doing the same thing, you can send them a message and say, hey, I just picked 101A. Why don't you pick 101B? The thing is you can't tell somebody else, hey, you can't select it. I'm saving it for Eric O'Hara, because you don't want to. Parents on here, your first experience, you get in, you get exactly where you want, and the first interaction you have with the peers, hey, you seem really nice, but get out. We don't want that scenario to occur. And you can look at other spaces that are in Summit and grab those, especially if you're talking in real time.
All right, next up, which of the towers will be available for fall?
Right now, Braxton and Bennett will be available. Working on Brook, so that may change later. We'll send that information out to students, working on some renovations there. And depending on what happens, even Lion Tower can come online. So ultimately, they may all be available, but at a minimum, 2 of the towers will be online when we start self-selection.
So I've heard that Summit has some dampness, mold, mildew issues. What is WVU doing to remedy this?
Well, one thing that we do is anytime we have any concern in any building, including Summit, is we work with our facilities management team. We also work with our environmental health and safety team. I can tell you anybody that's reported this issue, we communicate directly to them. Normally within 24 hours, they reach out directly to the student to schedule a meeting to inspect their space with them present and do air quality assessments, for example, in many cases, and then they share those results with students. I can tell you almost every one of those cases come back unfounded, but if there is corrective action that needs to occur, they handle that promptly. I can tell you they're very passionate about that. They're also very transparent about that. If somebody's had a bad experience, we want to know about that, but I can tell you in every case, if it's reported, we're following up and we're following up very quickly. Summit's one of our most popular spaces on campus. And even if you're looking on social media and see certain things, you probably see a lot of comments back talking just about that as, no, my student's experience was great.
Eric, is there an extra form that needs to be completed with the Air Force ROTC?
No specific form, but ROTC themselves may have something. We're normally sending those over to our representatives there saying, hey, this person is asked to be an ROTC. And then they will notify us if they're good to go to move forward through that or into that community, I should say. So nothing on our end in terms of a separate application, but you definitely want to reach out to ROTC.
So is the academic deposit refundable if the student does not attend? And is the housing deposit refundable?
But the housing deposit is partially refundable. So 125, the 225 is refundable by May 1st if you cancel. And then also the same relative deadlines exist May 1st for the academic deposit as well.
Okay, so son and friend want to live together. Do they select each other first, or does one choose the room, then the other selects them?
The latter. So they won't choose one another. There's no way to really choose somebody in the portal, but they can both go in and pick a spot at the same time based on availability in their particular area. So they may want to apply at the same time, or if one person gets into a room, that person can go in if that space is still there later, or they can search for other available spaces on the portal. They can put in a waitlist request later after self-selection, and that's when we'd want a request from each party. But then we'd want them to limit those conditions, maybe not have a specific building, so it's more likely that we can accommodate their roommate request. But yeah, on self-selection, you see everything that's available in real time and are able to select it. And if they get in there roughly the same time, they can look together and grab those spaces together.
So if the student is admitted, has paid the deposit, and is still deciding about WVU, should they proceed on the 4th and go through the process?
That's a matter of personal preference. I mean, you would be out, the $100 for the housing deposit if you did not attend. As I mentioned before, I mean, this is the early group. I mean, we're going to have students applying in April, May, June, and even July and August. So if something's really, really important to you, I'll give you an example. Stoniker is one of our smallest communities, has a couple living learning communities in it, so it'll probably fill up relatively quickly. So if that's really, really important to you, I would get in there as soon as possible and pick a spot. You're going to maximize your options the earlier you apply, but it is by no means required. I have 2 daughters myself, and to be honest with you, I'd give them different advice based on their personalities and what's important to them. Completely different personalities and what I would recommend. And also listen to your student. They may have certain things that are important to them. I caution you as a parent, don't stress your student out. Sometimes you might be more passionate about something than they are, and that doesn't happen in this part of the process as much as it's things to bring. I laugh at the people that try to plan their room down to the square inch before they get here. And to a certain degree, that might be possible, but you have to be in the space for a while, see what everybody else is bringing. You'll mix it up and you can deliver something to your desk in just a couple days via Amazon or other shopping services or buy it locally. I see parents stress their student out about really trying to have everything, every organizer and shelf in the room before they get there. So same thing with the selection process. If you're not ready to do it, don't need to feel rushed. Don't feel like you're going to miss something. You're still going to be in a great spot that's going to have certain advantages.
Eric, are there any private or single rooms available?
Single rooms are limited. Many of them are held for accommodation needs. So if you need that for an accommodation, make sure that you're registering with the Office of Accessibility Services. But there are a limited number of singles. There's also private bedrooms in Seneca Hall. Also look at the rates because the rates vary. The rates are posted now for the 24-25 academic year. They typically don't get approved by the Board of Governors until June. So we'll post those rates as soon as they're available, but they'll be fairly close to what they are now. But that's another thing that you just want to check out to make sure that you're finding the best fit, but also finding the best price in your price point.
In the portal, is there specific information listed such as rooms that face outside or face the courtyard in Honors Hall?
There are not. It will give the room, the adjoining suite. If somebody's already picked the spot, it would tell you who's in that spot and have their profile if they've completed it. There's some pictures, room dimensions on our web page, but it won't say if it's a courtyard or an outside facing room.
My daughter's applied to Honors College, but hasn't heard back yet. Can she still grab a room in Honors?
Great question. If she's not admitted into honors, she won't be able to see those spaces at this time. However, she can pick another spot. As soon as she does get admitted, her profile should get updated shortly thereafter, and she can go back into the portal and look for available spots in honors in Lincoln. It's still really early, so there's those spots go a little bit slower, only in that you have to be admitted into the college, so don't feel like you're behind if you're looking for an honor space. But if you're already there and already admitted, you can start looking now.
Is there a way to preview the profile before December 4th, as students will be in school? Although, as I mentioned, you don't really need to do it at 9 a.m. It's still just as available later on. But is there any way to see it beforehand, Eric?
No, because you can't complete the profile until you have the application. So you have to go through, you have to be in the application to fill out the profile. So nobody's going to be able to even complete the profile before 9 a.m.
Okay, are roommates randomly assigned sometimes? Do you have to choose a roommate? Can you just let the system do it?
Well, during self-selection, you can see those profiles. You can pick a spot. You see the profiles for both the person assigned to the room and the adjoining suite if applicable. But somebody else can go into that spot. So you can't say, hey, I just looked at your profile and I want you to choose something else. You could, I mean, you still have that ability, but roommates are not randomly assigned later in the process either. So during the manual assignments process, they're going to first look at preferences. Is there a spot in the building that you're looking for? And then if you completed a profile, there's some tools in the portal that allow us to find best match.
And the housing deposit, Eric, can be paid starting on the 4th, correct?
Correct. All part of the portal process. Agree to terms and conditions and go right into paying the housing deposit.
Okay. So this question is, do you have to commit to attend to be able to put in the housing deposit? Is that correct? We still don't have the financial information. So
Yeah, I mean, you have to be admitted and you have to pay the academic deposit to be able to get into the housing portal. But those cancellation deadline or the cancellation deadline on May 1st, you can decide later. You might be out the partial or the $100 for the housing deposit. But if you're not 100% sure and you still want to move forward, you can absolutely go through that process if you've been admitted and paid the academic deposit.
as Eric said, the academic deposit is refundable up through May 1st. So you could do that. And just a note, reading something else here. We're not going to run out of housing. So if you aren't comfortable making that decision until after the first of the year, there will still be housing available. It might not exactly be the hall, but that could work out too with that wait list. Eric, in which residence hall is the Engineering LLC located?
It is in Braxton Tower. And you should see in the self-selection, I should have mentioned this as well. One, if you're admitted into engineering, you'll be able to see those spaces and go to Braxton Tower, go to the website, it'll tell you where they're at. And then it will say that on the self-selection step that it is a living learning community and what living learning community it is. Another one, forensics, for example, in Summit on the 10th floor, or if you're in business and economics in the Chambers College on the 9th floor of Summit. And there's others throughout towers and across all of our communities and residence halls.
So how soon after the application is completed do the student profiles pop up for students to read?
If in real time, if the student is on the self-selection step or on the application status page after they pick the space, they'll be able to see it. So it's immediate. So if you're on the self-selection step and somebody just completed that and selected a room and it completed the profile, they'll see it there.
What if you would like to be in a particular place, but there's an LLC listed that you're not a member of? Can you still live there?
You want to be in a particular, the LLCs are typically floor-based, so there should be other spaces available in the residence hall that you're looking at. So there's no one LLC for an entire building. For example, engineering doesn't take up all of Braxton, so there should be other non-LLC spaces there. However, if you have a specific roommate and they're not in engineering, they won't be able to select a spot in the engineering LLC.
On the same topic of LLCs, should the student choose their LLC right away, or can they do that later?
They can preference on the front end but they want during the self-selection process. If you have the profile on your account and it's there, you'll be able to go and select that space in real time. But if you're not in the designated forensics major, you won't see those spaces on the 10th floor of Summit Hall, for example. There are some other thematic ones, so it can get a little confusing. So you might have to apply for a specific one, but then you can complete, that'll be on that website if there's additional action needed for that. And you could still choose another space and decide to move into the LLC later if you wanted to.
Okay. I'm not sure that this is actually a question or a statement, but what about the flood in Stoniker? Have those kids been relocated to Evansville for 3 months?
There was an incident in Stoniker, not common, but it happens when you have 4,000 people living throughout the system. Unfortunately, this one did a lot of damage, but within minutes, they had our restoration team on it. But there was a lot of mitigation that had to occur for this particular incident. They've been working through that. We did have to reassign students. And the goal is to get them back at the beginning of the spring semester. Got an update today. They're moving through it, doing the putback, getting the tile put down, and we're almost there. But yes, that can happen in rare instances. But the advantage to living in a residence hall is that we can at least provide you a temporary spot. Typically, it's shorter term. Sometimes, depending on the extent of the damage, it can take a little bit longer. But we communicate with those students, provide support for those students. In this case, even move their resident assistants over with them. So not ideal, but we do work to resolve those issues quickly and help students that are stuck in that situation. And if there's any difference in the rate, in this case, we would provide a prorated refund based on the difference in the room rate.
Thank you, Eric. All right. Next question. How is the payment work for housing?
So pay the housing deposit in real time when you're going through the application. So with a credit card, as you're applying. The charges go on your account during assessment, and they're included in the larger university bill. So they will go on. Typically, that first assessment is in July, and you'll receive a lot of information about that. So all student charges, including the residence hall charge, will be posted to the university bill. And then your deposit will also be applied to that as well. It'll be released to the account, your housing deposit.
Are some of the residence halls more dominantly freshmen?
Not really. So most of our residence halls are predominantly first-time freshmen. So no matter which residence hall that's out there for self-selection, they're all supporting freshmen. We do have a fairly robust returner population and some other populations, but they're interspersed in.
All right, next question. Does room selection start immediately after submitting the application, or do you get assigned a time to come back at a later date?
Great question. No time slots. It's immediate. It's all part of that portal process. You'll navigate right into the self-selection step. So there's no, hey, you applied, and then we'll give you a time slot later to come back and select a room.
So can they pick a specific floor and room number, or is that random?
Yes, they can. Sometimes it may be a little confusing just because of how it was numbered back in the day. For example, Braxton Tower is tower number 2. So it starts with a 2. And then if it's on the first floor, it'd be 1, and then the room number. So it can be a little confusing in terms of how they're numbered, but yes, you can see, you can actually see the specific room and adjoining suite if applicable, and choose and go through all the ones that are available. If you can't determine what floor that is, give us a call or send us an email and we'll let you know. Grab it though, if it's there, grab it if it looks interesting, because you can always look at other stuff later, but we don't want you to lose a potential spot that you think looks good.
Okay, so Eric, what would an option be for 3 roommates who want to live together?
There are triples, limited in number, but actually those don't tend to go as quickly. You can look for a suite. So you may not be in the same room, but you'd be in the adjoining suite. So I would encourage them to apply as soon as possible to maximize options and then do it in real time. You don't have to, but look for what's available. The 2 roommates, grab that as quickly as possible, look for the adjoining suite or find that triple. Or in Seneca, there are 4 bedrooms available as well. So you can look at the options that are available in real time on the portal. The other thing I would say, I'll just throw it out there, roommates. We're convinced, and I even look in my professional organization where they're talking about roommates and they say, you know what, we think people would be a lot happier if we just press the button in July, which that button does exist. There could be auto allocations. So best friends, you need to have that conversation up front. Best friends are sometimes our bigger roommate conflicts later down the road. So you may practically live together later, but this is going to be the first time you truly do live together. So you want to talk through that. And there are so many options, whether it be roommate agreements that we do early on in the semester. One great thing about the residence halls is all the support that you have there. You have staff that are in the residence halls that are working there, that are there to support the first year experience. So we're going to do everything in our power to help you. But yeah, we see people focus a lot on roommates, and you've got to have those tough conversations up front. You got to talk about sharing space. You've got to talk about habits and what those are going to look like when you're actually in a small space together. And you should see with roommates too, even if you didn't get your roommate and you have a best friend from home, they get a spot, you get a spot, they get a roommate, you get a roommate, and you bring your friend groups together. So a lot of times that has, so somebody decides to come to WVU later, you're not able to be roommates. A lot of times that works out very well for them because they maintain those relationships and expand relationships with others. Sorry, I have to talk about roommates all day.
Oh, that's because we have a lot of experience with it. Okay, so do you have to log into the student or parent portal with passwords to complete the application?
You do have to use your WVU credentials to log on to the portal. So the student will have to use their credentials to log on.
And Eric, how can you tell which rooms are connected, like in a 2-bedroom suite?
It will say on there, like the adjoining suite, and you can see if there's 1 space available or 2 spaces in the room itself, but then it should also list very clearly what the adjoining suite number is.
Okay, so we're gonna go over the timeline here once more. So on December 4th, when the portal opens, my student will be picking their residence hall and room that day. If the student is then accepted into the honors college, do they have to live in the honors, and what would they do if they wanted to?
So on December 4th, when the portal opens, if they've already been admitted into the honors college and have that profile on their account, they would, during self-selection, be able to see those spaces in Honors Hall and in Lincoln Hall. They are not restricted to those areas, but they'd be able to see those spaces and select those spaces if they've been admitted.
Where is the Forensics LLC located?
10th floor of Summit Hall, top floor.
And I think you touched on this, but we'll ask it again. Different halls and locations come with different housing costs. Is that correct?
Yes, those are on our website. At least the current rates are. When the new ones are released, we'll update those rates. They're also in the portal, by the way. You see that in the self-selection step, like we were talking about suites and room numbers. You also see the current cost for that space as well.
And how are the rooms and bathrooms divided at Oakland, referencing gender?
So there are sets of pods there. So you walk into an individual pod that's labeled male or female, and then they have the lockable pods within them. And they're mixed throughout the floor. You have male and female options there.
Oh, Eric, our favorite. What do A and B mean in the portal?
A and B are a way for us as an assignments team to be able to differentiate the two spaces in the room, or three spaces if applicable. In most cases, the A and B mean nothing. It doesn't mean that you're closer to the door, closer to the window. You still have to communicate with your roommate about that. Some people are very passionate about being in a certain spot in the room. And the other thing is you can mix it up. You can change where you're at in the room as well. The only exception to that is Seneca. Seneca has private bedrooms. So there are specific apartments for most are 4-bedroom apartments for A, B, C, and D. That's the only exception. All the others, if you were in Oakland, A and B doesn't mean anything. You're going to talk to your roommate and find out which bed and which desk you're going to take. Now there may be, I should say, A and B with the closet in towers, for example. You'll get a closet key. So there are some minor exceptions to that, but it doesn't mean where you're at in the room.
Okay, some of these are just questions we've already answered because you all asked them, and so did somebody else that we already got to. But here's one. Talk a little bit about pest control and how extermination works.
So just like the concern when we mentioned with environmental health and safety team, we have a designated pest control team that works with our facilities management team. They do a lot of proactive things. They're throughout the buildings. They do different treatments in different areas across campus, especially in our residence halls because it's a living environment. But if there's any concern with a room, we want the student to submit a work request. That's going to get the right group of people to the room as quickly as possible. We have 24/7 desks, and you can call after hours too. So you can call 293-HELP, 304-293-HELP to get to our facilities help desk, which goes right to our university police department and gets routed to the right team as well. But students can submit a work request. We have a dedicated pest control team, dedicated environmental health and safety team, and then just a lot of amazing dedicated people in our facilities management team that do amazing work to make sure that your students' experience is a good one.
And remember, good lesson for your students, for you to be talking to your students about right now is things like, don't leave food, don't leave garbage out, don't leave things like that. I mean, all of us have kids who have empty containers, forks, plates, all of those things that they leave in their room for several days in a row. I know with my 3 boys, I have that. But good lessons to remember when you're living with so many more people, it could be an issue. So remind them of things like that. Eric, let's see here. Is there a tutorial that shows the process of how to do self-selection?
Not a specific tutorial, but admittedly, it's designed to be intuitive. It's designed to just hit the bubbles and go to the next step and fill out the information. So there's no tutorial that gives you a secret handshake or stand up 3 times, sit down, that's going to get you quicker through the process. I know I'm making light of that, but at the end of the day, the portal is designed to be intuitive, designed to get you through to the next step and show you exactly what you need to do. It's like going on Amazon and looking for a product and picking it ultimately.
Okay, if a student chooses a room and then finds a roommate later, but the roommate and the student can't get together, do students have the ability to see each other's assignments and request swaps?
They can't see another person's assignment, They wouldn't necessarily be able to do a swap, but two people could put in a request to be together. They could put a particular building too. That makes it harder, but it can be done. And the assignments team will work through that all the way through the end of June, all the way through the end of self-selection. But the other thing we're also trying to avoid, one, you can't see it in real time. You can only see what's available. And two, we don't want other people going, hey, we really like you, but move out of this spot because we want somebody else to go there. A lot of times people pick that for a very particular reason. They're happy there, and we don't want to put any pressure on them as well. Now, during the year, that could happen. So we will open up room changes, say nobody wants to move twice, but if for some reason you get here and that's not the best fit for you, about a week or 2 weeks into the semester traditionally is when we open up room changes and students can explore other options or talk to one another if they want to explore swapping at that time.
Okay, any of the towers going to be or have been updated for fall of 2025?
We're looking for a potential update for a few floors in Brook Tower. Just to give a little bit of preview there, I don't want to offer it until it's done, but the goal is to put pod style bathrooms in there, and they're actually working on that. My office is in Brook Tower. I'm here right now, and they're working away above me.
All right, where is the portal located?
It is myhousing.wvu.edu. So the My Housing to get into the portal, or just housing.wvu.edu to get on our website to look at all the information.
Can my daughter bring her own mattress?
The short answer is no, because you can't remove furniture from the room. Now, there are some exceptions. If there's an accommodation need and you work with the Office of Accessibility Services, that might be possible. In most cases, it's about the mattress topper and finding the mattress toppers that's best for you. So you can get that locally. You can go on Amazon. You can go to Walmart. There's a lot of different products out there. Don't spend too much money on this. Don't overdo it. But mattress toppers kind of provide those. They meet the individual needs of the students, finding the one that you're looking for that provides the type of comfort, kind of like choosing a mattress at home. So you can't remove the mattress, but you can bring a mattress topper and other things, except in those rare instances where you might have a specific accommodation. Same thing with a desk chair.
And as we get through summer, you will find that places like Bed Bath & Beyond, which is still online, Target, Walmart offer a lot of options of things and sales because they're getting ready for college move in. So you'll find mattress toppers and things like that on sale pretty easily with those.
And I should mention our optional services that normally comes in a later presentation, but there are optional services on our website, like renting a micro fridge, getting some of the bedding. And it's like, don't stress out. You don't have the right mattress topper on day one. You'll find somebody that has something you think is really cool and go on Amazon, and within 2 days you'll have it. Or get something locally. That's why I talk about stressing out, is you probably are going to forget something. Probably not everything's going to fit exactly how you thought it was. And we don't want that to cause that moment of stress, because it's easily, you can fix it very easy.
Yep, my son forgot hangers. So there you have it.
Did he use it?
One other thing, as Eric mentioned, you can't replace the mattresses. That goes for other things. No, you can't replace anything in it. So you can't bring your own desk chair or desk or anything like that. Eric, what happens if roommates move in and find they are not compatible?
There's a couple things that we do on not day one, but early on in the process. One of the first things that the resident assistant will facilitate is a roommate agreement. Might have heard of those as being contracts. They're not designed to be contracts. To be honest with you, the piece of paper, now it's done online, is really, I always say, worthless, because it's the conversation that's important. And that's why we want the resident assistant to help them out with that, to talk about those things. Because, I mean, you might talk about sharing things. Sure, you can have whatever you want. And then they eat all your string cheese, drink all your Dr. Pepper, and then it gets real. So those are those things that you want to talk about and continue to have that conversation. Your resident assistant, the RA, can help mediate. And then if for some reason you can't resolve it, I mentioned before, a couple weeks into the semester, we're going to open up room changes so students can explore options in any of the residence halls at that point in time. Nobody wants to move more than more than once, but sometimes that happens, and that's the advantage of being in a residence hall. You do have all those options available to you, and you can explore other options later.
Eric, is there a different cost for an LLC? Or is it the same as a regular?
No upcharge. It's the same as the regular cost for that particular building. We are cognizant of that, so in most cases, it's not in the most expensive properties by design. For example, Seneca is the most expensive residence hall. There are no living learning communities in Seneca.
All right, we're gonna combine two here. So do Honors Hall or Lincoln Hall fill up quickly? Would they be full by Christmas? And or what halls do fill up the fastest?
On average, it's a tough question to answer. For example, I always use the phrase the male slacker effect. Our male applicants tend to apply a little bit slower than their female counterparts. Same thing in my household. So there could be, Stoniker could fill up, all the female spaces could be filled up before the male spaces. Then people can move and it opens up a space in real time during the self-selection process. In general, I would say Seneca, because it's a studio apartment, tends to fill up quickly. Stoniker is another one. Honors and Lincoln do as well, but a little bit slower because of the condition that they have to be admitted into the Honors College. And not everybody in the Honors College chooses to live in honors. So those do fill up quicker in the process, but not as quick as I would say Seneca. And Seneca represents a small fraction. And Stoniker is another great example. It's popular because it's suite style downtown, but it's also our smallest residence hall and has a couple of living learning communities in it as well. So it tends to fill quickly, mainly because it's just a small percentage of the overall number of spaces we have across campus.
Okay, so are the freshmen or the majority of their classes on the downtown campus?
It depends. It's very likely that students are going to have classes on both campuses. Ultimately, they're going to have access to both the personal rapid transit system, the PRT, or the bus. And even though I live close to work, it's still closer for students to get to class no matter where it is. So that's the other thing, is sometimes people are so focused, you won't have your class schedule yet. And you hear from cousins, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, grandparents about where they should be. And sometimes that may not be the best spot, or it's a trade-off. No matter where you're at, you're going to be close to a certain amenity, and you're going to have the ability to get wherever you need to be on campus and throughout the community, even in Morgantown with the bus system.
And I will say that we really hope that you all think about choosing housing based on, as Eric has mentioned, on amenities and what's available. Students should be able to think about where they want to live and travel back and forth. As Eric mentioned, it's pretty easy, but also it helps students get to both sides of campus and to experience the differences between them. And you want your student, if they live downtown, to still go to the rec center. So if they lived out in Towers, you'd still want them to go downtown. So consider that as they're choosing here. What's the best way to find a potential roommate before December 4th?
There's no formal way to do that other than communicating with other families on social media. But you still have time, even in the portal. The best thing to do is, if you don't have somebody in mind, which that's common, more people are not going to know who they live with than do know who they're going to live with up front. So, but you can look at those profiles. If there's a space in the room or the adjoining suite, you can continue to go shopping online in the portal through the end of February. And then if you meet somebody along the after self-selection along the way, then you can both get on the wait list to find a spot as well.
So just to confirm, the student should be the one applying for housing in the portal.
Great question. Absolutely. Yes.
And that goes for all processes. The student should be the one who is filling out the application and signing up for different things as we go through this whole process.
I should mention there is absolutely, completely, totally, the student should be the one taking responsibility for this. One thing in the application process, if the student is under 18, the parent will have to sign the contract, but there's a separate process for that. They don't go into the portal and log in. they get an email that the student provides, and then that's how the student would serve as the proxy in that particular case.
Okay, when should we reach out to accessibility services for accommodations?
You've been admitted, pay the academic deposit tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow they're open. I would go onto their website, if you could throw it into the chat here, accessibilityservices.wvu.edu. There's a button on that page to register. There's more information there, but do that right away. Don't worry, we hold spaces for accommodation needs. So if you have an accommodation and you're doing it this early in the process, I'm confident we'll be able to meet your needs at that point. But yes, that's the first step. A lot of times people want to reach out to housing to make those arrangements. And ultimately, it has to go through accessibility services. They're not going to share any private information with us. They're simply going to say what accommodation the student needs. I talk to them every week, reaching out to me about availability, needs, questions that the students may have. So, but main point is register right now.
Can I access my daughter's room while she's out?
Short answer, no. So it is the student's room, and in many cases, they have a roommate. So shouldn't be sharing the student ID card or key if applicable. Some are hard keys. Sometimes you use your ID card to get into your room, depending on where you're at. So no, they need, any guest needs the host. The student that lives there needs to be there with them.
Are the profile questions posted on the website to preview and plan answers prior to the application?
No, they're not, but it's a drop-down menu for the series of questions. Are you neat? And it's like, we try to make them fun. No, I'm a slob. Or something, or borrowing things. No, all my stuff is mine. No, or yes, take anything you want, or hey, ask me first. It's very easy to fill that out. I don't want to overplay that. And then the last part is a narrative. So if you do want to write your narrative in advance, like I like to take long walks on the beach, you can type that up in Word or an email and cut and paste it when you get to that step if you want to get that much of a head start. But like I said before, you can update that. You can add to it and go back to that step if you want to go beyond that in the portal to continue with the application.
Do upperclassmen also choose their housing on December 4th? So my student could be rooming with an upperclassman.
That is possible, but we do restrict certain spaces to certain profile types. Like only first-time freshmen can see them. So we do limit the spaces that returners can be in an upperclassman, but we still offer opportunities for them. But you can see that profile and communicate with them there too. If you see somebody that is an older student, you're looking for a younger student, you can move to a comparable assignment elsewhere. But in most cases, most of the people that are going through this process on December 4th are going to be first-time freshmen.
But if a freshman and sophomore wanted to be roommates, that would be acceptable.
They could. There are a great example of restrictions is we do not allow, honors hall is all first-time freshmen. We don't allow upperclassmen just because we want the next honors class to be able to get into that building should they so choose.
Okay, does WVU allow for raised and or bunked beds in any of the halls?
Great question. So we don't allow you to loft beds or come up with contraptions to raise them up. We do allow bed risers. So those cheap ones that you can buy online or at Walmart or at Target, not to exceed 6 inches. On the dimensions that I referenced, in most cases, you'll see the type of bed that's in a room and how much room is underneath the bed. And then if you got the 6-inch risers, you could add 6 inches to that. In many cases, they have extra features like they plug in and you have extra USB ports or something like that. So you can find fun. Don't spend a lot of money on it, but cheap plastic bed risers, not to exceed 6 inches, can give you a little bit more room.
Okay, how close is Seneca to the business school?
It's in the Sunnyside neighborhood, right next to Honors Hall, right next to Summit, which is relatively close. And if you're wondering, go on to Google Maps, put in the walking feature, and you can actually type in Seneca and type in Summit, and it'll give you the exact walking time. But it is right there next to the Life Sciences building. There's some cheats and cuts that students learn, best route to get down there. But Seneca is relatively close to Reynolds Hall.
Okay, which campus is best for a freshman criminology major? That kind of goes back to what we've been saying about, it's not really about what campus, but really what the hall offers for your student. But Eric, jump in.
Yeah, I really can't add to that. There's no specific living learning community for criminology. So no specific LLC. It's very possible they could have classes on both campuses. So there's no bad spot for a criminology major is the short answer.
Okay, so if you are admitted into honors college and engineering, what would be better, honors hall or the engineering LLC?
Yes. That one's a tough one. So it could be either. I lean kind of towards the engineering hall because you could still participate in the honors college activities, but you don't have to. You also, for engineering, if you wanted to live in the Evansdale campus, then you also have spots in Lincoln Hall, which is an honors residence hall as well. It has some other LLCs in it too, but you can, Lincoln is a popular spot with engineering students in the honors college, as well as Braxton. But if you want to get full access to all the engineering activities, I would definitely say go with Braxton Town. I'm always going to go with the LLC. Even
Okay,
honors is also an LLC, so, but.
if my student picks a room at 9 a.m. and later that day, person he wants to room it goes in, but the other side of that room is not available, changes can be made, correct?
Yes, both students can look for another spot in change rooms. They just can't kick somebody else out of that space and they can't hold the space. So if the student comes in there later and somebody else has picked it, then they can look for 2 spots available elsewhere, hopefully within the same building.
During self-selection, a student can move themselves as they feel necessary.
411 times if they want to.
That seems excessive.
It
Okay.
is.
Is there a particular residence hall for finance majors? Is there an LLC?
That finance majors would fall under the 9th floor of Summit Hall, so in the Chambers College for business and economics.
Okay, so back to 3 roommates who would like to live together. If they chose Seneca and they have 3, would you automatically fill that 4th bedroom with someone else?
We would if it was after February 28th through the manual assignments process, but Seneca rooms go quickly. Somebody else is going to see that vacancy that doesn't have a roommate preference or read your profile and think it's really cool and grab that spot.
Okay, does the roommate matching just include a questionnaire and then WVU would pick the roommate, or do they provide you with the results and you can reach out on your own?
So during self-selection, if there's a vacancy in the room, the student can look at the other roommate and suite mates that are assigned to that space. If they filled out a profile, they can actually view, it will show the profile that the student completed, the suite mate and the roommate.
Is there a monthly payment plan for housing? And if so, do we select the payment plan option when applying and completing the housing application?
So housing charges are on the student bill, so the larger university bill, so that would be the payment plan for all university charges. So you'd go through those processes with the Mountaineer Hub. And I think there's going to be some presentations and more information about that later, right?
We will be back on December 5th with a presentation from the WVU Hub to talk about paying for college. So check that one out as well. Yes. Do the residence halls that do not have air conditioning have windows that can be opened for airflow?
They do. And it's been a long time. For example, one of my favorite spots on campus is Borman Hall. And I lived in Borman. Those once it can be a little stuffy when you first get there if everything's closed up. But once you start opening doors and opening the windows, you get great airflow. Not to date myself, but that was 30 years ago. But yes, they absolutely open. Typically cools down in September. Sometimes it gets cooler quicker. Sometimes it gets cooler later. But yeah, A lot of people choose to go into those handful of buildings that aren't air conditioned because of the other amenities, specifically location. And those rooms can be bigger too. So there's lots of different layouts and different character associated with each residence hall.
Okay, so they understand there's no nursing LLC, but are there residence halls that tend to have more nursing students than others?
Not really. I get that question frequently. It's a matter of preference in terms of where the nursing students want to live. If you want to be closer to the medical campus, then I would say Evansdale is popular and some students go that route, but sometimes they're looking at specific amenities, so they might choose Summit Hall because they want to be in a suite style room on the downtown campus.
Does Seneca Hall have single rooms?
It has private bedrooms, most of which are in a small studio apartment with a small common space and a full kitchen. Most of them are 4 bedrooms. There's a handful of 3 bedrooms and a smaller number of 2 bedrooms. Most are 4 bedrooms, but they're all private bedrooms that attach to a common area.
Okay, are the single suite bathrooms in Honors Hall private or shared between 2 rooms?
I'm glad you asked this question. There are only a handful of singles in Honors in Lincoln. They're the only private bathroom singles on campus. They're not on the portal. They're not available for self-selection. We've even taken them out of a lot of publications. Main reason is they are exclusively held for students with accommodation needs with that very particular accommodation that we get from the Office of Accessibility Services. So students living in Honors or Lincoln are going to be in a double suite. So they'd have a roommate and then they would connect to a bathroom and that bathroom connects to the adjoining room with 2 other people in it.
Okay, Eric, let's talk a little bit more about that micro fridge.
So best thing to do, I'd say the biggest, bulkiest item to transport is a refrigerator. So we suggest going to mymicrofridge.com. It's on our website on our optional services page and renting a micro fridge. You can share the cost with a roommate. You don't have to transport it. It will be here when you get here. You split that cost as I referenced with the roommate, and you also don't need to bring it home with you. Mini fridge and microwave is not a common thing to bring with you after you leave the residence halls. So it has a lot of benefits to just rent the item. You don't have to have one. I will say we do have a restriction. You can bring your own mini fridge if you want. It's the big bulky item, but you can't bring your own microwave. If you are going to bring a microwave, you have to rent the micro fridge combo. One, we know that those units are inspected and certified, that they're safe, and they have certain features associated with them, like turning off the refrigerator while the microwave's running. So for safety reasons, we do have you rent the micro fridge combo, unless you want to just bring your own mini fridge.
During our tour of Summit, we were told they may be putting hardwood floors in some of the rooms, in removing carpet. Is that true?
Yes, we have an ongoing plan to update spaces. We're slowly replacing carpet with luxury vinyl tiles, so LVT. So we did do a few floors in Summit. What we do is we look at what the oldest carpeting is or oldest flooring in a particular building and focus on those areas first. We recently transitioned Stoniker, for example. I think it has 1 floor, the 2nd floor that we're hoping to do this summer. And then hopefully we'll also do a few floors in Summit as well and get a big chunk of that taken care of. Fortunately, I don't know exactly what floors those are going to be right now. We won't make that decision until late in the spring semester or early in the summer.
Okay, now I'm gonna ask you this question, Eric, and just reminding everyone, we will have more housing webinars coming up that will have different topics, including this topic. Is move-in day standard regardless of location?
Yes, and it will most likely be that Thursday, Friday, and Saturday before classes start the following week. I don't know those dates off the top. I'd have to look at a calendar and look at the start date, but it's a 3-day move-in process. Students will get information in early June to go online and actually self-select a move-in time as well. They'll pick their move-in appointment. That way it's spread out, gives you the best move-in experience. I think I saw something in there about honors move-in. There's no early move-in for honors. In some cases, they might ask you to pick an appointment on the first 2 days so that you could attend the honors retreat. But this year they did it on Sunday, so honor students could pick any move-in appointment. And my guess is that's what they're going to do this coming years as well.
Okay, so, let's see, next question. Do they save spaces for males in each dorm?
The only residence hall that is one gender would be Borman North. All other halls, whether it be on the floor or suites, are gender specific. There are some gender inclusive areas as well, including our True Colors community in Stoniker. So, and if there are individual needs that we need to meet with a student, we want them to reach out to us as soon as possible so that we can work through that and do whatever we can to accommodate their individual needs.
Okay, will Seneca fill up on the first day?
I can't say for sure. It's possible, depending on the number of students that have been admitted, depending on preferences. I don't think it will, but it is possible. It just depends on what people are looking for.
Will specific LLCs be on one floor and will boys and girls be together on that floor because it is their LLC? Specifically engineering.
Engineering actually is gender specific. So we don't have a co-ed floor, but it varies by the living learning community. And a lot of times that's based on historical filling of those spaces. So we try to offer options. So if one doesn't completely fill, we open spaces on one side of it to maintain the integrity of that community, and we may open those spaces later for other students. But we don't want them to be, we want to maintain the integrity of that community. So I know I'm giving kind of a roundabout answer there, but with engineering, it is gender specific. Same thing with ROTC. But in the business LLC, Climb, and with forensics, it's co-ed, but it wouldn't be mixed by suites, just it'd be co-ed on that particular floor.
Okay, what types of classes are closest to Sunnyside?
Sunnyside is essentially on the other side of the downtown campus. So if you're looking at, it's behind that tower, behind my head in the picture here, the Sunnyside, you can kind of see the residence halls in the distance there. And in the front of me from this picture is where honors and Lincoln and the student union, not Lincoln, honors, not honors, my apology, Borman, Stoniker, and Dadisman are in front of me, closest to the student union, the Mountain Lair.
Okay. Oh, a goodie. Can a freshman bring a car and how does parking work?
Great question. So there is no restriction on bringing cars to campus for first-time freshmen. I will say it is a big responsibility. Residence halls don't offer any parking and it can't offer parking, but you can work through transportation and go on their site, transportation.wvu.edu. There are some spaces that they rent. Typically, it's in a holding area, meaning you have to walk or take the bus to get to your car. It's not something you're going to park outside your building and then drive to class. There are lots of private options too. Some more expensive than others, but you can explore that. I'm saying if you don't need a car, don't bring it the first semester, feel it out. There are some cases where students need a car for very specific reasons, and there are no restrictions, and you can bring it and look for private parking or look to get a university spot.
And I will add that the parking that would be available is like a storage lot kind of area up by the law school. And it is difficult sometimes it is not a monitored lot. So there's nobody keeping an eye on the cars up there, and your student would have to get there and back to wherever they live on their own. There is not transportation that runs up. Public buses do come to the bottom of Law School Hill on a certain schedule, but it is something the student would have to work out on their own. Okay, do you have to apply for an LLC before the portal opens to verify that you're eligible?
Not specifically. A lot of times you can get to that if you don't see it in real time, you can go to that website and see if there are different, I'd go to the living, if that's really important to you, I would go to the Living Learning Community page. Look at the individual living learning communities. If you have any questions about that, contact us. If there is an application, it's listed there. A lot of times the applications aren't necessarily to get in, but to make sure that the student, it's the best fit for them, that they're wanting to get into that community for the right reasons. It's the best fit for them, and it's the best fit for that particular living learning community.
Okay, is there any sort of LLC for pharmacy students?
Not particularly for pharmacy or health sciences.
Okay, can students go home on the weekends?
They can, though we want you to stay with us as much as possible. We want you to be fully engaged in the Mountaineer experience. By all means, go home, see your family. That's very important. We have some students from the other side of the globe, some from the other side of the state, some from the other side of the country. So it's easier for some groups of students to get home. But, and we want you to take advantage of every opportunity you get, but we also want to make sure that you're not going home every weekend. We want to get you fully engaged in the Mountaineer experience, get involved with your peers here. The students that make those connections typically persist better in college when they have those connections. So yes, you can go home, but definitely stay with us and enjoy your experience at WVU.
Absolutely. Let me just add that, when students come to campus, we really hope that they will stay on campus at least through that first 4 to 6 weeks and not go home, because that's when everybody's making friends. That's when all those connections are being made. And we don't like to find situations where a student has gone home frequently and everyone else has been making friends and forming those little groups. And the student who isn't here isn't having that same experience. So keep that in. Let's see. Does Seneca have laundry facilities on each floor or maybe just on one floor?
All residence halls have their own laundry facilities. Some of them are floor-based, like Seneca. I think everything but the second and third floor have a laundry area on each floor. Honors and Lincoln have 2 very large laundry rooms, for example, that have areas where you can sit in there and oftentimes have a TV. It's all different. Towers has a couple units on each floor. Borman has one central area. Dadisman has one central area. But no matter where you live, there's laundry and it's close by. You use your Mountaineer card, your student ID card to activate. You download the Speed Queen app. You can put money on via Mountie Bounty through the Speed Queen app or put it directly utilizing the app. And I said Mountaineer card, but actually I lied. It's not the Mountaineer card anymore. It's actually an app on your phone. And then you can activate the washers and dryers and see what's available and get notifications when your laundry's done. So no quarters.
Long are the days.
Mhm.
Eric, are you able to lock the bathroom door between suite rooms so your neighbors don't have access to your bathroom?
It depends. I think in most cases you can from the outside, but there are a few exceptions to that where it doesn't lock from the other end. It is very clear in terms of how you can get in and get out. So not many students. So you can have that relationship with your suite mates, but it is a separate room. So students aren't going back and forth through the bathroom. They're coming in through the main entrance should they decide to do that. But it does vary. We have different types of suites, so that can vary.
Okay, when it comes to the residence halls and visiting, are there visitor hours or there specific times?
There is restricted visitation at certain times. You do have to register guests after 9 p.m. and all students will have to show their ID card to get into the residence halls. We have controlled access throughout the residence halls. For example, here in Towers, after 9, have to show your ID card and swipe to get in. And then you'd have to swipe your card to get into the stairwells or to get on the elevator. If you want to register a guest, I would encourage you to go online and take a look at our visitation policy that talks about that in a little bit more detail. But you can register guests, including overnight guests, with your roommate's permission.
All right, Eric, can you bring a television?
You can. We do have cable in the residence halls. Admittedly, that's not as popular with students as it once was. At least in my generation, and my own kids are on their devices. Even though the television might be in front of them, I still have cable in my home, but I know I'm an old fogey and not many people do. have cut the cord, so to speak, but yes, it's there. Students, but for the most part are utilizing streaming services, utilizing their personal devices, and not bringing a TV. If you want to bring one later, you can. I always tell people you don't need a 50-inch television for your room. So get a feel for it. You can always bring one later. You can bring it with you if you want to have a TV by all means, especially a smart TV, because you have options available there as well.
Okay, and speaking of smart TVs, how does the Wi-Fi work in the residence halls?
So students we'll give information during check-in on that. Your resident assistants will be able to help you with that, but it's an easy process to be able to go on, register devices. It's designed, we transitioned to a new provider recently, and that's been amazing because students, it's like setting up your home network. There'll be instructions, there'll be handouts, tell you exactly what to do. It's super easy. Students can register their devices and get connected to Wi-Fi.
Okay, well, oh, that was a long one. That's our last question, and we are out of time. So thank you all so much for joining us tonight. This was wonderful. We really appreciate everybody joining in and asking us all these questions. And we will be bringing you other housing webinars as we go through, touching on different topics. So please keep that in mind. If you are not yet a member of the Mountaineer Parents Club, go to our website and join. That way we'll know you're getting our emails and that you'll be informed of all of our upcoming really cool events, including that one on December 5th. So thanks again to Eric for giving us his evening and sharing all that information with you all. If you need anything else, please reach out to the Mountaineer Parents Club or directly to housing, and we will all be happy to answer your questions. And so, good night.
Thank you.